Hello everyone, welcome to the online class. Myself Beryl Dipti Monisha, working as temporary assistant professor in Government College of Engineering, Tirunelveli. Through this video, we are going to learn about idle scan. An idle scan uses a spoofed IP address to send a synchronized packet to a target. Depending on the response, the port can be determined to be open or closed. Idle scan determines port scan response by monitoring IP header sequence numbers. A unique advantage of idle scan is that it can be used to defeat certain packet filtering firewalls and routers. IP source address filtering is a common though weak security mechanisms for limiting machines that may connect to a sensitive host or network. For example, a company database server might only allow connections from the public web server that access it, or a home user might only allow interactive login connections from his work machines. An idle scan consists of three steps that are repeated for each port. First, probe the zombie's IP ID and record it. First, synchronize packet from the zombie and send it to the desired port on the target. Depending on the port state, the target's reaction may or may not cause the zombie's IP ID to be incremented. Next, probe the zombie's ID. Again, the target port state is then determined by comparing this new IP ID with the one recorded in step 1. After this process, the zombie's IP ID should have increased by either 1 or 2. An increase of 1 indicates that the zombie hasn't sent out any packets except for its reply to the attacker's probe. This lack of sent packets means that the port is not open. That is, the target must have sent the zombies either reset packet, which was ignored, or nothing at all. An increase of 2 indicates that the zombies sent out a packet between the two probes. This extra packet usually means that the port is open. The target sent the zombies a synchronized acknowledgement packet in response to the port synchronize, which induced reset packets from the zombies. Increases larger than 2 usually signify a bad zombie host. It might not have predictable IP ID numbers or might be engaged in communication unrelated to the idle scan. Idle scan of an open port. In step 1, the attacker sends a synchronized acknowledgement to the zombie, and zombie not accepting the synchronized acknowledgement send back a reset disclosing this IP ID. In step 2, the target sends a synchronized acknowledgement in response to the synchronized that appears to come from the zombie. There Hello everyone, welcome to the online class. Myself Beryl Dipti Monisha, working as STEM in. Through this video, we are going to learn about idle scan. An idle scan uses a spoofed IP address to send a synchronized packet to a target. Depending on the response, the ports can be determined to be open or closed. Idle scans determine port scan response by monitoring IP header sequence numbers. A unique advantage of idle scan is that it can be used to defeat certain packet filtering firewalls and routers. IP source address filtering is a common security mechanism for limiting machines that may connect to a sensitive host or network. For example, a company database server might only allow connections from the public web server that access it, or a home user might only allow interactive logins connections from his work machines. An idle scan consists of three steps that are repeated for each port. First one, probe the zombie's IP ID and record it. Second one, forge a synchronous packet from the zombie and send it to the desired port on the target. Depending on a port scan, the target's reaction may or may not cause the zombie's IP ID to be incremented. In the third one, probe the zombie's IP ID again. The target port state is then determined by comparing this new IP ID with the one recorded in the step 1. After this process, the zombie IP ID should have increased by either 1 or 2. An increase of 1 indicates that the zombie hasn't sent out any packets, except for its reply to the attacker's probe. This lack of sent packets means that the port is not open, that the target must have sent the zombies either a reset packet, which was ignored, or nothing at all. An increase of 2 indicates that the zombie sent out a packet between the two probes. This extra packet usually means that the port is open. The target sends the zombies a synchronized acknowledgement packet in response to the port synchronize, which induced a reset packet from the zombie. Increases larger than 2 usually signify a bad zombie host. It might not have predictable IP-ID numbers or might be engaged in communication unrelated to the idle scan. In step 1, the attacker sends a synchronous acknowledgement to the zombie not expecting the synchronous acknowledgement sent back a reset disclosing its IP ID. In step 2, the target sends a synchronized acknowledgement in response to the synchronized that appears to come from the zombie not expecting it, and it sends back a reset incrementing its IP ID in the process. In step 3, the zombie's IP ID has increased by 2 since step 1, so the port is open. In next slide, step 1, the attacker sends a synchronized acknowledgement to the zombie not expecting the synchronized acknowledgement sends back a reset disclosing its IP ID. This step is always the same. The target sends a reset. The port is closed in response to the synchronized that appears to come from the zombie. The zombie ignores the unsolicited reset, leaving its IP ID unchanged. In step 3, the zombie IP ID has increased by only 1 since step 1, so the port is not closed. In the next slide, step 1, just as in the other two cases, the attacker sends a synchronous acknowledgement to the zombie. The zombie discloses its IP ID. In step 2, The target absently filtering a port ignores the synchronize that appears to come from the Zampi. The Zampi, unaware that anything has happened, does not increment its IP-ID. So in step 3, the Zampi's IP-ID has increased by only 1 since step 1, so the port is not open. From the attacker's point of view, this filtered port is distinguishable from a closed port. Here is a step-by-step explanation of the ideal scan process. First one is identify an ideal system. Second, spoof the source IP address. Next, send synchronized packets. Observe IP-ID sequencing, and the last one is send control packets. First, identify an ideal system. In identifying an ideal system, the attacker identifies a system that is mostly idle or has low traffic and predictable IP-ID sequence behavior. This system will be used as a proxy for the scan. Second one, spoof the source IP address. The attacker crafts transmission control protocol synchronized packets with the spoofed source IP address, making it appear as if the packets are originating from the idle system. Then the third one, send synchronized packet. In sending synchronized packets, the attacker sends these TCP synchronized packets to the target system's ports through the ideal system. The target system responds with synchronized acknowledgement packets, believing that they are communicating with the ideal system. Then the fourth one is observe IP-ID sequencing. In observing IP-ID sequencing, the ideal system, acting as a proxy, receiving the synchronized acknowledgement packets and increments its IP-ID counter. The attackers monitor the IP-ID sequence of the ideal system. In the fifth one, send control packets. In sending control packets, the attacker sends transmission control protocol packets to closed or filtered ports on the target system, instructing the ideal system to send these control packets to the desired open port. These control packets can be transmission control protocol synchronized or transmission control protocol acknowledgement or other packet types depending on the specific implementation. Analyzing IP-ID sequence by observing the IP-ID sequence of the idle system, the attacker determines if the IP-ID value is incremented in the response packet. If the IP-ID sequence increases means it indicates that the probed port is open. A lack of IP-ID incrementation suggests that the port is closed or filtered. Thank you for listening to the lecture.